Hey everybody, welcome to Etc. Show. We were just talking about our search for a moral compass. So we'll see where we're at after an hour or two of this. I'm Chris, got Joe and Paul with me.
Is that the new subtitle for our podcast?
Yeah, we're the
moral
compass.
Someday we'll find it.
We
The rainbow connection.
We're recording this the day before the draft. If we talk draft, everything's going to be old. So we'll talk about that next week. So if you're waiting for us to talk about the draft, why are you waiting for us? But next week we'll end up.
What can be said that hasn't been said for 5 months now?
Yeah, nothing more useful will be said until the draft actually happens tomorrow. And at that point,
yeah, there have been a couple updates, but again, it's going to be old by the time we talk about it. So let's move on to other stuff. The three of us weren't here last week, so let's since all three of us are here, let's talk Easter. Anything noteworthy about Easter? I mean, obviously we had good Easters. We were a family. That's what matters. But anything fun
Easter was the worst.
Yeah.
Easter was busy. We had a Good Friday service. We did a joint service with another church in our denomination, a predominantly black church, and they had their choir sing a couple songs, and that was something.
It became a very different experience for your
congregation. It did, in a good way. And then we did an Easter egg hunt on Saturday, and then the service on Sunday. So all good, but I was exhausted.
Is it too much to say that Easter is the Super Bowl for pastors?
It kind of is.
Okay, so that's
too much.
To say that.
Christmas is the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. What's more of the Super Bowl, Easter or Christmas? Is there a number one if you had to pick a number one? Yeah, I'm talking
in terms of busyness, in terms of the insanity surrounding it.
Right.
Producing the Super Bowl versus producing a normal weekly football game.
I feel like Easter is still the big one because I do feel like, there's family who will bring friends to Christmas Eve service, but in terms of the Sunday morning experience, and I feel like there's so much, maybe the more higher expectations for the Easter service. Whereas, Christmas Eve, you do some carols that people know, and you talk about Jesus's birth, and everybody leaves happy. Where they're looking for, they're looking for a harder hit on Easter Sunday. I feel like.
Okay.
You can't just randomly that week dig something out of Habakkuk and be like, y'all, this is what we're talking about this week. I know there's other things that are on your mind, but guess what? Here comes Numbers.
What was the last sermon on Habakkuk?
Today we're going to dive into that passage about if someone sits on a seat and they have a bodily discharge and they walk away, don't go sit where they sat. We're going to get to the bottom of that.
Finally, somebody gets to that passage. I've been looking for that sermon for I don't even know how long.
Well, Paul, for Good Friday or Easter, did you guys have any events or plays or anything?
No.
Okay.
We just did the combined service with the other church.
Yeah, well, we got a couple stories to talk about that are Easter related. I sent you guys a story, Weston, West Virginia. I don't think that's a big town, but there was an 84-year-old man that was seriously injured after he fell from a cross during a crucifixion reenactment on Good Friday. How about that?
Well, you got to be careful with those Easter pageants, man. Yeah. We just fell off the cross. It wasn't like he wasn't being hammered to it or anything.
It didn't seem like it. Well, it fell from the cross.
Right.
It was during a reenactment on Good Friday.
Sure.
12:30 p.m.
There's no other reason why you've gotten up onto a cross. Right. You're either doing a reenactment
if they did what's traditionally considered, the right through the palm. If you put the nail through the palm, the body weight will pull the nail through all that cartilage. So you've got to get it through the wrist. So if they're hammering through the palm, he's going to rip right out of that.
Fools. first timers, beginners. You can't do that.
But why are you sending an 84-year-old up on the cross anyway?
Well, I gotta say he volunteered for it. There's no way that a reasonable person directing this program was like, you know who we need to crucify?
Well, here's where it gets awkward.
That 84-year-old dude.
That's when you need kind of the pastoral, like, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but where we really need you this year is this role. You're going to shine in this role.
I'm going to throw this out there because it's West Virginia.
Oh, they're all related.
Because in an area of the country like West Virginia, I live in Mississippi. I would say make the same claim for my area. There are going to be 84-year-old men who are very active and are possibly still working in construction and or roofing and siding. It's a real thing that guy may well be comfortable being up on the top of a ladder and still actively doing it. So it really depends on the 84-year-old. I'm going to be honest with you on that one.
Yeah.
On the average 84-year-old person, I think I would agree with you wholeheartedly. This is not wise. But that specific guy, maybe it was like, oh, he's up on a 10-foot thing. He's always up on 10-foot things. Like that's
right. And to be honest, the story doesn't specify the guy's experience around that stuff. Here's where it gets awkward, though. And from being a pastor's kid, I'm sure you guys can speak to that too. This guy was not a member of the church, but he agreed to assist during the reenactment. I don't know, Paul. I don't know how it is at your church, but my church, is it more comfortable when someone gets hurt if they're a member of the church? Like they kind of understand. They're like, all right, well, this is awkward, but I'm a member of the church. It's okay. You laugh it off. When you're not a member of the church, it gets awkward, right?
Yeah. I think if there's going to be a lawsuit, it's less likely to come from a member.
Okay.
Yeah, but not completely unlikely.
No.
Somebody's got to check the court records down there.
There's certainly a sense of entitlement there on a certain level as well. I am owed something.
He participated in the reaction. We're not sure if he played Jesus or one of the other people being crucified or a worker or whatever.
One really old thief.
Yes.
There's maybe a reason why he got caught. I'm just throwing this out there. He's 84 years old. I've got your wallet.
Or if he played Jesus. If he played Jesus.
That's the oldest Jesus.
Ever. Yeah, the kid's like, Mom,
it does remind me though of as a theater performer and as a Christian, there are some stories that cycle around, legends of accidents that happen in Christian, Easter pageants, Christmas passion plays, whatever it might be, and that whole list of things. And there is the classic story of the Jesus wing at the hospital where multiple injuries happened in the same Easter pageant, where the people, they go to do the stabbing of Jesus's side, and it's a retractable blade, but because somebody didn't wash it off the fake blood from the night before, they got sticky and didn't retract. And so Jesus actually gets stabbed on the cross. I won't say what the story usually says that he says out loud. He takes his own name in vain. Then they take him down, send him off to the hospital, and send him the replacement. But there is a lift, for him to ascend into heaven afterwards. We're jumping ahead in this Easter pageant, to the ascension.
Spoilers.
But it was rigged for the weight of the other guy, and the stand-in was lighter. No. So when they drop the weight, he just rockets up into space. Jesus launched on Blue Origin. Like, that's too fast. That's not the way it was described in the passage. There's a whole wing of injured Jesuses in the hospital. Jeez, I
enjoyed the comment on this story. Someone posted he was released 3 days later.
Oh, wow. That sounds familiar.
Yes.
Now, speaking of all this, do we know what happened at the Avengers Easter Church?
We do not.
You know,
oh no, what was the name of that church? I don't know.
I remember.
What could it have been this year?
Every Easter story, but it's funny. Last year, all these stories came across. Like on my feed was filled with crazy movie adaptations of Easter story. Right. I haven't seen that this year. So my hope
they all got sued.
Or the millions of followers we have, they listen to the podcast, say, "Oh, we better not do that anymore."
Yeah, somebody's not. Yeah, that's right. We influenced society.
Yes, you're welcome, society.
There was a great video that was out there for a long time, and I'd have to dig it up again. But it turned out to be that church that was across the highway from Malone.
Okay,
it's right across the highway. They would have events and stuff there all the time in our day, but they did an Easter pageant. And there was a fire effect when Jesus came out of the thing, but it caught the foam stonework on fire.
Oh no!
So there was a giant stone that was rolled away, but it was rolled away on fire. But Jesus came out and was singing. And he was singing his part, and like there's people running around behind him with like fire extinguishers and stuff trying to put out the fire. But it was in that church that was right across the highway from Malone. It was a beautiful thing. I used to show that to my Christians in theater class all the time. Oh, it was the best.
I'm definitely
talking about Easter pageants and stuff.
We're getting close to being monetized, believe it or not. And I'm definitely afraid of getting demonetized. But have you ever seen? There's these like nice cartoon-looking things on Facebook, the reels, where it's of images of heaven, and obviously no one's taking video up in heaven and sending it back, but they're trying to speculate what it would look like if someone died and they're running up to see Jesus, and it's emotional. You get older, you start thinking about that in your own life, and you think about, parents who died and everything. So you get emotional and think about that. Well, you know how Facebook goes. If you rest on a reel too long, Facebook will send you lots of the same reels. And I've gotten all these videos. Man, there's been some weird videos of like Jesus fighting Satan, and like Satan's in a wheelchair and Jesus pushes him off the.
Yo.
And I'm sitting here like, okay, at least Jesus wins.
Now we're looking at post-apocalyptic WWE storylines for Jesus and Jesus and Satan.
Well, and then we have all these images of, unfortunately, the Pope passes the other day. Now we have Jesus hugging the Pope in heaven, like, welcome, Pope. I'm Jesus, and it's just so.
Is that what Jesus would say to? Hey, welcome, Pope.
Welcome, Pope.
There's
Call him Frankie. Hey, Frankie. What's up, bro? They have a secret handshake. The whole thing.
If I find the link, I'll send it to you. There's like this 10-year-old boy. It's almost like they're doing a podcast. So he's like, "Hey, Jesus, why do good people suffer?" And it's legitimately good questions and good answers. But then the camera shifts to Jesus. He's from a microphone. And Jesus is like, "Yeah, let me explain why this is happening." Now, the good thing is it's pretty theologically accurate. So we're not having Jesus say crazy stuff or anything. But it's kind of weird having a little boy talking to Jesus like in a podcast studio. It's just kind of strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, at least it's theologically.
Is it just me, or is it almost more theologically unsound to have a fake AI Jesus saying things that might be okay, or to have a fake AI Jesus saying absolutely outrageous things that there's no way that it's real or accurate? Like, I don't know what's worse. I feel like we're in real dangerous waters when he's out here saying things that sound reasonable,
right,
but may not be.
Well, remember that app?
As opposed to having him surf or, grilling hot dogs or something. Like,
I don't think Paul was with us in that, but remember the app I downloaded I was reading to you where like you could text and you would text anything and they would come back with biblical answers. But the weird thing about it was like, okay, text King David, text Peter, and if you paid money, you get like text Judas Iscariot. And like I think there was the Satan one too, which was really strange. It was really bizarre. And again, it was AI, and the answer would be supposedly theologically accurate. Like if you said, "Hey, should I cheat on my spouse?" It would be like, "No, don't do that." But still, it was just kind of weird. I don't know. So
I'd be interested in texting Abednego and get the real tea about Meshach.
Yes.
Because the scripture just acts like they're three people who have the same brain, but they were three different people, and so I want to know. I want to know what was really going on with Meshach.
Well, and Paul, if you have any theological opinion, go for it. But I mean, as far as I know, we're not going to know until we get there. But I always wonder about some aspects of heaven. Like we had John Schlitt and Petra on, and one of the questions I asked, you think there's rock and roll in heaven? John Schlitt's a Christian. He sings rock and roll music. And, he answered properly. He doesn't know. I'm sure he would love to play if he could. I wonder, is there going to be events where we can ask these questions? You know what I mean? Like Shadrach, Meshach, and
I don't know. Is there going to be a press secretary up there? Are we going to have
or
like a media scrum? We'll get in there and we'll just ask some questions. We'll just start peppering them with questions.
Or like an open night.
Open mic night. Open mic night in heaven.
Or the good characters get up. Yeah. Or I would
tonight at 8:00, meet and greet with Shadrach.
Oh, now I find out.
Well, I a while back I went to see Spike Lee speak. He was coming to Canton. We heard him. I couldn't remember what he was talking about. Well, is there going to be like that? Instead of Spike Lee talking, there'll be a Shadrach night or whatever. Where Shadrach would hang out. I would love.
I have to imagine it's going to take many thousands of years being there until we're like, hey, you know what? I want to find out the dirt on Shadrach. What was he really like? I think it's going to take a long time to remember, even think that that's something valuable to spend our time on.
Yeah, it feels like we'll have other things to be concerned with. I don't know.
I would love to see mashups. I don't know. Is there a classical composer who was Christian? I don't know if there was or not. Let's pretend Beethoven was Christian. I don't know if he is or not, but let's pretend he was. Would you have
most of them were Catholic, right?
Okay.
Probably.
Well, for the sake of my story, let's say.
Well, certainly Bach was. You can use that for an example. Bach.
Sure, Bach. I'll just say Bach. Why not? Mm-hmm. So, are we going to have Bach play with a current musician? Would John Schlitt play and Bach would back him up or something? That'd be cool. Mixing the generations together. Or if in heaven maybe there's this Christian thrash metal band. And King David gets up and goes, "Yeah, this is my jam."
There you go.
Yeah. Chris, I have a feeling that your parents, knowing your upbringing, probably not. You were probably denied owning Hooked on Classics when you were younger.
Hooked on Classics?
You remember Hooked on Classics?
What was that, classic rock?
Oh, it was classical music set to disco.
Yeah,
you had You have the infomercial,
No, I would love that. I want to hear some matches.
YouTube, look up on YouTube later, Hooked on Classics.
Yeah.
My dad had the 8-track.
Disco beat behind all those things, man.
All right. Well, speaking of Easter,
fire.
We got to go here, and we got to be careful about this. I work Saturday and Sunday night. Saturday, we had the story on TV about J.D. Vance meeting the Pope. And that was...
Wait a minute. Please clarify. J.D. Vance and the Pope, not J.D. Vance, the Pope.
No, yeah. J.D. Vance, no, he met the Pope.
I heard that, and that was not settling on my ear correctly.
Well, I mean, they haven't... The Pope smoke hasn't come out yet, so it's...
Pope smoke.
Right. Well,
Pope smoke.
Well, let me back up a second. I got that wrong. Saturday, J.D. Vance met somebody from the Vatican. And the question was, hey, we don't know if he met the Pope or not. So Sunday, the story comes out, hey, J.D. Vance met the Pope. So we have video of J.D. Vance meeting the Pope. We have video of the Pope kind of driving around Vatican Square, waving at people and everything else. And
like his hover around is meow.
Well, and being in TV,
Hover around.
You want to make sure
Oh my gosh.
you have the updated story in the newscast. So busy night, it airs on at 10 p.m. news. Go home, go to bed, wake up. The Pope died, which was awful. It's sad to hear. I'm like, oh my goodness, when did this happen? Apparently, it was announced overnight. Well, lo and behold, and again, let's be careful how we say this. Very sad to hear about the Pope. Talked to some Catholic friends who are upset, and they're talking about the conclave and everything. But man, J.D. Vance put himself in a bad position. He wanted to meet the Pope, met the Pope that very night. The Pope passed. Apparently, the Pope died of a stroke. Poor J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, first it was the national championship trophy, and then it was the Pope. That guy's cursed.
I would feel a little self-conscious if I finagled my way into meeting the Pope, and then I wake up the next morning and he's dead. That would give me a complex.
This is just the first act of the best new mystery novel.
Yes.
Vice President meets the Pope. Next
We're online.
The Pope is dead.
So I really shouldn't tell any stories, but I've had a couple of circumstances where I've kind of met with somebody without realizing it was an awful time to meet with somebody. They're going for a real bad time that you shouldn't have been over to their house when it happened. But I was naive. I did it. J.D. Vance had to have felt the same way. And, he went from there to India. He was supposed to meet the Indian Prime Minister. Man, how would you feel if you're Indian Prime Minister?
Prime Minister.
Like, no, I'm busy.
No, no. Not home.
Tell him I'm not home.
No one's here. I already gave him.
He's hiding behind the couch.
Get out. Get that guy out of here.
Some interesting.
And also remove my trophies from outside.
Yeah. Guy Vogler, I podcast him once a week, and he's Catholic, so he wanted to talk about the Pope. We talked about it. We looked up some Pope facts. You guys will be interested in this. They have the College of Cardinals, so they're going to gather. They're going to pick the next Pope.
Yep.
Very good chance that one of the Cardinals who are going to be there are going to become the next Pope, and we'll talk about more facts about that in a second. Guess how old the youngest College of Cardinal guy is? Or the youngest cardinal, I guess.
64.
47.
Really? 47?
Yeah. How about that?
This is not right. We live in a world where I'm old enough to be in the College of Cardinals. This is not right. This is not right.
And obviously, you need to pick the best person. You don't want to pick someone just because they're young. But one frustration I've had with our presidents lately is they're all 80. Or close to 80, from Trump to Biden to everybody else. I think it'd be cool if we got a younger president. I mean, we kind of have one with Obama, we kind of have one with Bush, but now we're getting to pick the older ones. So let's pick a younger Pope. I mean, you don't have to pick the 47-year-old. I'm not sure if the guy's the best choice or not, but let's don't pick an 85-year-old guy.
It's like you get some mileage out of the draft pick.
Yeah. Now the danger is.
Well, I mean that's the positive side of that. The negative side of that is that guy gets put in place and he starts wilding out, and now he's just going to be there for decades. And there's nothing anybody can do about it except send J.D. Vance over there and see what happens.
Well, speaking of that, I looked up, I think the longest serving Pope, 32 years back in the 1800s. How about that?
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a very 1800s thing to do.
It felt like John Paul II was there for half an eternity.
He was there for a minute, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, Pope Pius, I think, was a record holder.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned this
to Queen Elizabeth. We were just stuck with her for forever.
Guy laughed, and he's Catholic, so I think this is appropriate to mention again. We were talking about how do we make this interesting? The conclave is old school, okay?
I'm just saying reality show.
Right. Well, okay, but they're like, look, lock the doors, put away your phones. We're not doing any video or anything else like that. And I told Guy, I'm like, well, what do you watch if you want more? Like CNN's going to have a ton of coverage, all the other news networks. But what about more detailed, like if you really want to know who these guys are and everything? And Guy was telling me it's like EWTN is like the Catholic TV network, but they're outside the conclave. They won't go inside. Right. So why can't we? I mean, NFL drafts tomorrow. We'll talk about next week. There we'll get lots of breakdown on what team should pick and everything else. I want to have
get a Catholic Mel Kiper to show highlight footage of the different Cardinals and have sell sponsorships for the this Pope Smoke brought to you by.
Well, yeah, so it's different colors. It's not just black and white. Sometimes it's like, it's sponsored, but
right. And, obviously you can make it silly and you could be very derogatory.
What do you mean silly?
Well,
you're trying to earn money here.
I think we can make it very respectful. Like Blue
Pope
Origin.
Combine.
I was watching the space launch where they launched Katy Perry and all the other girls up in the air. Blue Origin had broadcasts of that. And Blue Origin did it in a way that was respectful to Blue Origin because that was the company. Why can't the Catholic Church do it? They can broadcast
as the Cardinals arrive, have them arrive one at a time, like WWE entrance style. Like they all have their theme song. They come out of the limo and
time to
high five the crowd.
Time to play the game.
Okay, well, let's suggest how we do the conclave. Now, all 180 Cardinals have to come. So you know who's coming. It's like a family reunion. You know who's there. What if you make it like, what's it, Royal Rumble? Where you randomly pick 30 in.
Yeah.
So these
every 2 minutes you send in another one.
And people are like freaking out, like, oh my goodness, it's
and the last one eliminated, or one who doesn't get eliminated, he's the new Pope.
And even if
so in this format, are they chucking Cardinals out the window, or
Cardinals out the window? Both feet touch the ground.
For the first minute,
doing a handstand back into the building.
That's right. Somebody pulls a Kofi and does a handstand. He crawls back in.
Well, for the first minute, they're duking it out, like they're fighting, but afterwards they calm down. You know what I mean? Like the new Cardinal comes in,
and they pray together.
Yeah, and they pray together. Yeah. They apologize for their fighting.
I'm sure this is already a thing, but if the easy way in America to get people on board is Vegas puts odds on the Cardinals.
Well, Guy told me it's done. I mean, they're already doing it. I mean,
are you kidding me?
That's surprising.
Where you can bet on it. Yeah.
Somehow that seems especially wrong.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody needs to go overturn some tables in Vegas.
Well, especially, aren't the priests okay with gambling, right? Or is that bad?
Who knows?
Well,
you can do whatever you want as long as you apologize for it later.
Okay, well, if you can,
as long as the church benefits from it.
Right. Listen, I don't think the Catholic Church is in a position right now to be like, oh, this is wrong.
All right. Well, my other ideas are crazy.
We got a couple hundred years of some pretty nasty stuff, y'all.
Hold on tight. I got an idea that, my goodness, if the conclave's here and they're in. Here's what we do. Okay, and this is great PR for the Catholic Church.
Finally.
I asked Guy, hey, man, what's like the Catholic pop star or pop culture star out there? Guy guessed. He said he believes like Mark Wahlberg is a Catholic.
Probably near the top.
So it's probably your top of your, and who knows? I don't know if Tom Brady's a Catholic or not, but let's say it's Mark Wahlberg.
Mel Gibson is so beloved.
That works against you if people don't know if you're Catholic.
Okay,
you can't be the top Catholic celebrity if people don't know. Stephen Colbert probably would be up there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, every time a conclave happens, let's announce one celebrity to go into the conclave, like honorary cardinal. Put them in. Okay. Now, here's what happens. Is Mark Wahlberg going to be our next pope? Probably not. But what story will be when Mark Wahlberg comes out of the conclave? People are like, whoa, what a great opportunity. We prayed a lot. We laughed together, whatever they do in the conclave. And now
what happens in the conclave?
Yeah.
stays in the conclave.
Well, because what's going to happen? Some random conclave dude is not going to be asked to go on Letterman or Colbert or anything. But if Mark Wahlberg goes in a conclave, man, he comes out. Every talk is going to be like, man, I want to talk to him and everything.
So I think your suggestion there inherently is the reason why they wouldn't do that.
Well, they need good PR.
The whole thing of the conclave is to not come out and talk about it.
Okay. But
nobody's writing a tell-all from the conclave. It's just not happening.
But get this. What if they go in the conclave and, things aren't going well? Everybody's like grumbly. Everybody wants to be the Pope and everything. You never know. Maybe the celebrity, maybe they'll be like, oh my goodness, nobody's worthy. Mark Wahlberg, you are our new Pope. And how crazy would that be when the black smoke comes out? Is it black or white smoke?
I don't know.
White
White
when you get a Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white smoke comes out. You're like, whoa, who is it? It's Mark Wahlberg. You're like, whoa, Mark Wahlberg's our new Pope.
There really should be fireworks in the smoke, FYI.
Oh.
Amazing. I am enjoying the thought that a conclave is not unlike a what's that, escape room. Ooh. That is a lot like an escape room. They'll have to follow the instructions, otherwise they're not getting out of there. We gotta elect a Pope, and then we can all leave. We gotta find the right keys to the doors.
So it could be like a competition, not this vote thing where 2/3 have to get voted on. People will get eliminated from the conclave, right?
I bet you Peacock would put together a pretty solid game show. On like whoever wins this. It's like the floor.
Yeah.
Like parts of the floor open up, and I've never watched the floor. I have no idea what happens on the floor.
Well, no one falls for the floor.
Nobody watches it. It's kind of like conclaves. Nobody watches it. Well, but they want it to be that way instead of Peacock's game shows.
And why not have a game show? Because technically, if you're a cardinal, you should be okay to be a Pope, right? Like, if you're a cardinal, you should be eligible to be a Pope, right? Or is there bad cardinals? Well,
I think don't you have? I thought you had to be a cardinal.
Well,
he's saying if you already are a cardinal, aren't you good enough to be Pope?
Right.
So all popes are cardinals, but are all cardinals capable of being Pope?
And that's why we should have a game show, because if everyone's okay,
they're all eligible, right?
Have a game show. Whoever wins gets to be Pope. How about that?
I'm thinking punt, pass, and kick competition.
Ooh, or like the Bachelor. Will you accept this rose?
He does Sunday Mass from that little balcony there, and then he just punts something, just like boom, right out into the square there. See if you can get it out of Vatican City, because it's not big.
I wonder if any of them are doing like the Clinton campaign, like just taking their saxophone into the conclave and
it's like entertaining everybody.
Not a little.
You pull out there playing Careless Whisper.
Or what if one of the cardinals or some famous Catholic becomes like the Bachelor, and they can give out roses, like Cardinal, Uganda, we accept this rose. Oh, thank you.
Like give out crucifixes or
we accept this crucifix. That'll be fine. Well, that could go bad. Maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. All of the other ideas up until now, totally solid, but that idea was not acceptable.
Yeah, and I don't know. I need more of a draft element, because I'm excited about this draft. Coming from football,
you are
a draft element to the conclave. I will tell you, you watch the movie.
You have to factor in footage. You have to been able to. You should have been listening to sermons by all the cardinals up until now.
Oh yeah,
we need stats. There have to be stats. How tall are they?
Do we have cardinals?
What is their weight, with and without?
What's their vertical?
What's their vertical? Their long jump. I need to know their 40. I have to know how fast they can run.
Well, in the evangelical church, we all have our YouTube pages for our sermons. Do they do that in the Catholic Church? I need to look that up.
Some do.
Who
They
has
should
the
have
most people?
they should get like a rating score from people who have been to confessionals with them.
Oh, yeah.
Like what's their confessional rating?
Oh
Well, that
man,
could be
that
part of the game
feels
show.
that feels too much like what's the when you're rating restaurants? What is that?
Oh, like
Yelp
TripAdvisor.
review.
Yelp.
Yelp. Yeah, Yelp reviews for confessionals. I don't. There's something wrong there. I think it seems like that might be counterintuitive. I don't really.
But don't you
like
want to
the
know
way that
if
this
the Pope is going
guy-
to nod off when you're doing a confession?
But somebody's dissatisfied with the answer or how many Hail Marys they have to do, and they're going to give them a 1.
Well, and the health reports are really important. So we need a combine element to it. I want a good, healthy Pope.
So sick of these
Which,
popes
my
dying so
goodness,
quick.
we talk about how presidents age. Nothing ages a person like being Pope.
Nothing
Right.
ages
Benedict
a person
and
like being
Francis.
in a. Nothing ages
My
a person like
goodness.
being in a job that you can't leave until you're deceased.
That's
Have you
job
ever seen
security.
the end of those guys? I mean, they always look terrible. Yes, because they've been in the job for 32 years. That's why.
Benedict was there, 5 years, and then he resigned,
He was like
and Francis was in for 12.
He's like
I mean,
TJ Wadded. He's just like deuces. I'm out of Pittsburgh.
Remember
Look at that! I even got.
Whoa!
You got Pope balloons.
Gives me the Pope balloons. Woo! I love that there's this reactions, and I never know what's gonna incite them.
Remember when Benedict posted that on Instagram? We're like, oh, we know he's gone. Yeah. Oh boy. I don't know.
Is that guy still around?
Benedict?
I mean, he resigned, but is he still around?
No,
I thought he passed.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay. Because, do you go back to him? What do you do? Yeah. I mean, he's the only guy with experience, honestly. You're interviewing and like, what is your papal experience? Oh, none? Oh, that's like everybody. Okay, all right. Oh,
we're looking for more
years.
experience.
5 years. Okay, all right. Now we're talking.
Bring in that crafty left-hander Benedict. He'll get him out.
Oh boy.
Well, now all of that, like that conclave is going to be a bunch of cardinals. Like, okay, are we scheduled for any more visits with J.D. Vance? Let's clarify this first of all.
You got to clarify the schedule before we. Who can withstand?
Well, Trump's
I have one condition on the papacy here.
I would like the role of the Pope, but I have a couple of conditions. Number 1,
there should be 2 votes. Like there should, you've got Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL. Like there should be an initial vote.
Oh my gosh, how harsh!
Who is the most undeserving of the papacy? That guy takes the meetings the Pope doesn't want to take.
But we don't really know what happens in the conclave. We may be looking at a last shall be first scenario where the guy who gets no votes, they're like, boom, roasted. That's the guy. You didn't even know what you were voting for, suckers.
So I paused too. All right, hang loose, guys.
But they said it in Latin.
You guys
or whatever.
Like coming back. No, it's really compelling, guys. So the last shall be first with the Pope, right? You're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The guy who gets 0 votes, and for the most amount of time, like he got 0 votes on the first time, and still has gotten 0. All right, last shall be first. You're up.
So who's the most
like Pope Timmy? He's the next pope.
Okay. So
what would your papal name be?
Oh man.
Oh, let me mention this. I forgot to earlier. Okay, why the U.S. presidency is having trouble is if you become president, you keep your name. So Joe Biden wins, I'm Joe Biden. Donald Trump wins, I'm Donald Trump. You become a pope, you automatically change your name. I mean, that's part of. Should we do that with our U.S. presidents? Would that make the presidency better?
It depends on the candidate, because there are a couple of candidates that if they had the opportunity to now become a completely different person who they were before, I think that might be a step up.
Okay. Yeah, because you're not necessarily changing your name to the Great. I mean, you're not like a French ruler or something. I mean, you're pretty much just saying, "Hey, I'm Bob now," or "I'm Pete the President," or something.
Pope Rick.
Pope Rick.
I want to have a real down to earth feel, like that Francis guy.
Yeah,
he was like, "Oh, I'm all down to earth. I want to be like Francis of Assisi." Sure. You really needed to go with Frank then if you were going to try to be a pope of the people.
I think if you come from a certain country, you've got to really display your country. So if the Pope's from Italy, he's got to be a great pizza maker. You know, he's like, "Hey, look at my pizza here."
Hey, hey, I'm the Pope.
A paper pie.
The paper pie. Hey.
Yeah, Francis from South America. He needed to be a better dancer, and I don't think it was a great dancer or whatever. Like a salsa dancer or whatever. I don't
know. Pope.
Any of your thoughts on the Pope?
I mean, like, obviously, you feel like you have to go with a Pope name that's like old timey. We're always like going for stuff that's real old timey, right?
Oh yeah.
Does it have to be biblical? Does it have to be? Because I'm thinking Pope Abednego.
Yeah,
not bad.
Or if you're from America, I mean, they say, hey, the Pope could be from America. You never know. Shouldn't they honor their favorite like football team or something? You know, like I'm Pope TJ,
Pope Bill.
Yeah, Pope Bill or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't call yourself like Pope Steelers. Pick a cool Steeler name. Right? I'm Pope Bubby Brister. How about that? Pope Bubby.
Pope Bubby. Pope Bubby. Pope Troy. I'd switch to Catholicism.
Oh man.
If he had the hair, if Troy became the Pope.
Well, here's the other thing interesting. Guy told me, and again, he's pretty well versed in Catholic, so I tend to believe him on this. He says that, yeah, it's most likely going to be a college or cardinal guy who becomes the Pope. I guess it has to become a guy, but if you're Catholic and you're baptized, you're eligible to be Pope. So guy is Catholic, he's baptized. Technically, he could get the call. And I said, are you down? And he said, well, I'm married. Yeah, that could be a problem.
Well, I mean, Catholic Church can fix that.
And no one told me that when I was 14 and became a Protestant.
Right? Oh, man. I do feel like there's a lot of things about Protestantism that were not adequately explained to me before I got knee deep in this whole thing.
I didn't know I'd be a contender.
Man. I don't know. At this age, too, we probably could have been.
See?
Why can't the Pope be a woman? Do you guys know?
Because how can a woman be the Holy Father?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I like that you gave up on that real fast. Like,
because I don't think they. I mean, Holy Mother seems like it would be an affront to Mary. Would they call someone the Holy Mother?
Mary will claw someone's eyes out.
Well, I looked this up.
No, you didn't.
There was apparently a Pope Joan who was reigned as Pope in the Middle Ages, but some people think it was a fictional story. Fake news.
Yeah, there's stories of several people, including persons who presented themselves as male all the way through.
Oh.
And then there was one story that the woman then became pregnant by one of her assistants or whatever, and they were doing a parade through Rome, and she gave birth in the middle of the parade.
Oof.
So you know how that went over with everybody. They murdered her on the spot. That man just gave birth to a baby.
Well, good thing Trump's going
to kill that thing. And I believe I'm going to share this like it's a fact that I know.
Okay.
But I will say that I do believe that there was for a long time, I don't know if they still do it, there was a chair on which a potential pope sat for ease of viewing and verifying that they are indeed gendered as a male.
Oh,
I looked it up. There, the church.
You looked up that was off a quick search.
Oh no. I was curious.
There goes your browser history.
I was curious to see if there's any popes of color. BlackCatholicMessenger.org says there were potentially 3 black popes in Catholic history. The last one was 496 AD. So,
what you're saying, it might be time.
1,500 years? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. All right. Anything else about the Pope? We got a lot.
That's already far more about the Pope than I was prepared to speak.
Yeah, I was expecting to have 45 minutes of Pope content, but hey,
here we are.
Well, it wasn't all Pope.
It wasn't all Pope.
Yeah, there was some other stuff. I sent you guys a bunch of stuff. So
yes,
let me just throw out something that might be interesting. And this has always been fun to talk about. We've had fun with the name game over the years. Marcus Allen, Steelers safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I got mad why is Marcus Allen the safety now? Was there a recent one that we were kind of talking about? I can't remember now.
Marcus Allen is one that you camped out on for the longest.
Long time.
Well, there's a guy, I don't think we've actually mentioned him before, but it's got me curious. There's a dude from Cleveland who is now a member of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm not sure if he's a freshman or a sophomore. He's a running back. Did you guys see what his name is?
No.
Nope.
You're going to tell.
Bo Jackson.
Oh, boy.
There's a running back by the name of Bo Jackson. Apparently, at the spring game, he played pretty well. So there's a chance that you might see some Bo Jackson playing for the Buckeyes this fall. How about that?
Can't wait.
I'm going to change my opinion, guys, because you would think after I was railing on poor Marcus Allen, from the Steelers, I think it's kind of cool. As kids, we remember watching.
For the better part of 5 years, you nearly have. It's partly what gave you a heart problem, and now you're changing.
As we get older, we kind of get wiser and smarter in some things. I'm smarter here, and here's why. Let's pay homage to the greats of our past. Bo Jackson played when we were kids. We want to pass on Bo Jackson to our kids, the memories of him and everything else. So what better way of having a namesake play the same position in sport? That's great. I think we need more of that. Why can't
who so are you?
So now we're saying let's when a baby is born, we're going to strip a good chunk of the baby's free will, just like you are locked in to be a running back.
No, because you never know. I mean, good night. Look at me. I'm not an athlete. So what if my dad called me Michael Jordan when I was born? That doesn't mean I'm going to be a great player. Right? I'm not that good. See, here's what I'm thinking. We just talked about the Pope. Okay, maybe the Catholic Church has a great idea here. So the Catholic Church says, okay, you're
name your baby Pope.
Well, no, hear me out. So the Pope's going to be like, okay, Chris Pugh, you're the Pope. Well, Chris Pugh, what does that mean? We're going to give you a new name. So I'm like, hey, I'm Pope Pius or whatever. And people are like, whoa, what a great name and everything. Okay, so a young man becomes a Major League Baseball player, okay? Let's say he's powerful, strapping. He can hit home runs. So we sit there and say, okay, Bob, the young baseball player, we're going to change your name and call you Babe Ruth. And now we're honoring a hero from the past, but we're christening him with what he is and what he plays like. You know what I mean? If it's a tiny, fast guy, we're not going to call him Babe Ruth. We might call him I don't know, Ricky Henderson or something, a tribute to Ricky Henderson.
But with that scenario, Ricky Henderson would never have been Ricky Henderson. He would have been Willie Mays or something. And so you would never. Who's going to pass on the Ricky Henderson name?
We start now. I actually heard this. It was a really good discussion. They were talking the other day. Colorado got in trouble a little bit because Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter, guys that transferred to school that did really well, they're retiring their numbers. And people in Colorado is like, oh, that's way too early. These guys didn't play long enough. Well, one guy, I listened to a podcast, and one former player was like, what if you do it where you don't retire a number, you take a number that was really good. So say Ohio State had a player named number 1 who was a great receiver. Well, make future great receivers number 1. You know what I mean? So you're paying tribute to that number, saying, okay, number 1 is this great receiver. Same thing with names. I don't know. Joe, you look upset. What's your take?
I don't know. I don't like almost anything that you're talking about.
Yeah.
on either side of the thing. I don't like the idea of retiring numbers that much. I'm not a big fan of it because it ultimately you're going to have to stop doing that. If you have a team that lasts for any length of time, you're going to reach a limit and you're going to have to say, we really need to stop doing this because we got to put numbers on our players. This also needs to happen. I don't like their idea of retiring them. Put the number and put their name up on a banner, up on your thing. That's great. But also, I think there's just a lot of pressure that comes from, somebody going on to the Chicago Bulls and say, I'm going to be number 23. Well, you're not going to be that. So don't try to be that. Just go do some other thing. And retiring numbers, maybe give it a decade. Maybe.
Okay.
But all time, because ultimately it's just a number on a jersey. It's not magic. I don't know.
Well, but what we could do, if you're worried about running out of numbers, is have fractions.
Or what we could
up to
do,
the plate,
or
number
what we
9
could do,
3/4.
This one's wild. Here's what we could do: not put numbers on and just put your name on there.
Oh, yeah.
Why? What is the point of having numbers?
Or a big sponsorship logo, like you get a sponsor.
We already do that. That's already on a lot of sports, but
the big old
you're just trying to identify the guy, right? You're trying to identify the guy. He has a name, and it's also on his jersey. So you could just, I don't know, I'm going to throw this out there. Look at his name and call him by name.
Okay.
The only reason for having numbers and keep calling people by numbers and not their names is to not embarrass them when they get flagged for offsides or whatever. Like, what, you're calling out their number and you're wearing the number anyway. Doesn't matter. Just say Fred did it.
Yeah. Well, I take back my
Pope Francis is offsides 5 yards.
Well, I take back my comment. You shouldn't name people after a celebrity or a star, because how hard would that be if you're like, say you get drafted by the Chicago Bulls, and they're going to be like, Paul, your new name is Michael Jordan. You're like, oh my goodness, there's a little pressure on me now. I got to play like Michael Jordan now.
All the little boys out there whose name is Orenthal.
Oh, yeah. Then you're like, I've got to kill like OJ now.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to name my kid after Bill Cosby. Oh, man.
Jeez. Oh, that'd be horrible. Well, let's just say I'm going to name him Bill Cosby the comedian, not like Bill Cosby the
plumber. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
The other Bill Cosby that everybody knows?
Well, you just name him by your trait or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like Bill Cosby the comedian probably wouldn't be that bad.
So then that person's new name would officially be Bill Cosby the comedian.
Right. Yeah.
And then he would live next door to Bill Cosby the creep.
Like Cedric the Entertainer. Yeah, that's just your...
So Bill Cosby the creep. Oh.
Cedric the Entertainer. Let's move on. Megan the Stallion. All that.
Megan the Stallion. Yeah, what's the other Megan? I'm a little confused. I don't know.
The other Megan.
Yeah. I don't know.
Megan Trainor? I don't
know.
That's not a profession. That's just her last name.
Yeah.
There's Meghan Markle.
Meghan the Markle.
Not a stallion, to my knowledge.
The Oakland A's, and I think they're changing their name. I think technically they're just the A's because they're moving to Sacramento this year. Did you see this story? They have a player by the name of Nick Kurtz. They're NBC Sports California, the network that broadcasts the games, are telling the announcers, please be careful because if you say that name very carefully, closely together, you could slip up and say something bad.
No. This gentleman, this Nicholas.
Okay.
Yeah, that feels like you're just going to have to call this guy Nicholas. Sorry, bud.
Yes.
That's no good. That's no good.
Should he have to change his name, though?
But his name probably is Nicholas, right?
Apparently it's Nick because they're saying, hey, be careful. You got to pause.
No, they call him Nick.
Oh, they call him Nick?
I'm going to give you $100 if his name is not Nicholas.
I don't follow baseball, so I never heard of this man before. I don't
Me neither.
It's real. So I'm looking him up. Look out, my computer.
I'm looking him up. Nicholas Jeffrey Kurtz.
Nicholas Jeffrey Kurtz. Okay, maybe we should call him Nicholas Jeffrey Kurtz.
Yes.
Okay. Paul, you in favor of this guy using all three of his names?
Well, honestly, I was sitting there. It took me a while going through my head, like, what's the controversy? I was a little slow to the.
Yeah, it's a little N-wordy.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're not talking about that.
What? Yes, we are. That's what we're talking about. If you say Mr. Kurtz's name with his first name quickly as a play-by-play announcer, that is what it sounds like you're saying.
Oh, I thought the danger was you were saying like DI. I don't know.
No. It sounds like you're saying the N-word.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took
Nicholas
me.
Is fine.
It took me too long to figure out that was the problem.
That is indeed the problem because nobody said it. As soon as you say it, it's like, yes.
ESPN
That's
had
the
some
problem.
funny
There it
clips of
is.
anchors who have said, instead of bulging dick, and there's been a lot of, you said bulging dick. I thought it was like that, like dick hurts or something.
No.
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
No, but it's worse than that. I mean, that's bad enough, honestly.
Yeah. I definitely don't say
all of the people whose name is Richard who go by the nickname Dick, like that just shouldn't happen anyway. Because guess what?
Right.
That has no relationship to the name Richard. None. Why is that even there?
My maternal grandfather, his name was Richard, but he always went by Dick. It confused me even till this day. I don't understand.
I don't know.
That jump.
Have never gotten that train of thought. Never gotten there from that.
Okay, well, now that I hear that, definitely call him Nicholas. Don't even say Nick. We don't want that.
What I'm saying, yes.
Yeah,
no, it's bad, very bad, very very bad.
We posted.
Sorry, Nick. That stinks.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Nicholas. Let's keep calling him Nicholas. This is kind of a weird story. We posted this at my work today. There was a 4-year-old girl that was rescued. It's sad. She was trapped inside an apartment with her own deceased family members. Her mom and brother died, which is really sad. But guess how she survived? Chocolate.
Okay.
How about that?
Did JD Vance stop by the residence?
No.
We're not poking fun at the poor dead family.
Child.
No, I'm just saying if you're in
I finally found that article. Okay, now I'm looking at it.
I mean, if you're in a rough position, and again, we're not poking fun at the poor family, but man, this has got to be a great ad for the chocolate makers.
Oh no, you don't mention it.
What?
I mean, this article is even kind enough to like not mention what it was.
Okay.
They just said chocolate.
Well, I'm just saying, our chocolates can help you survive.
No.
Whatever happens. Oh, you don't want to add?
You know how they say in advertising, like, no, there's no such thing as a bad, mention or whatever. There's no bad.
This is a bad mention?
Yeah, this is bad. I wouldn't want. This isn't something I don't want to connect these ideas.
Okay.
My chocolate goodie connected to stories like this.
And I don't know that the best public relations move is, hey, everybody, you can survive on just chocolate.
So also not a great idea. Yeah.
Chocolate's good for
It's not recommended.
4 out of 5 doctors would disagree.
Yeah.
It also does concern me that my children won't survive if something were to happen to me, because we do not have. I mean, it's just been Easter, so we've got a lot of chocolate right now, but most of the time we don't. We don't have money for things like that.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
So you're setting up for one day you are just going to be bedridden with your in-laws until your grandson comes home with a candy bar that's got a golden ticket. Then you're going to jump out of bed, do a little jig, and
I am Grandpa Joe.
Yeah, I want to eat candy bars, and candy bars can help save my life. That's all I'm saying.
That is not true.
Okay.
Correlation does not equal causation.
Yeah.
I've been living for this long, and I eat a lot of candy bars. So clearly, it's been good for me.
That's like you get those people on the Today Show, like the 104-year-old woman, like, what's your secret? I drink a milkshake every day. It's like, I don't think that is necessarily what has prolonged you. You may have hit 104 despite the milkshakes every day.
Big Mac every day, baby.
The funniest news story I ever wrote, I covered a spelling bee once, and to be cute for the news story, you ask the kid. So they spelled some word right. I can't remember what the word was. And I'm like, wow, how did you study? What clicked in your brain for that word? And he said something like I saw it on SpongeBob. Like, somebody used that word on SpongeBob. I'm like, oh, really? And I'm writing this down thinking this is gonna make a clever story. Yes, the quote of the year. Yeah, TV makes me smarter. We used that quote. We got so many letters from people going, how do you endorse that TV makes you smarter? The kid said it.
Listen, these are facts. This is what the kid said.
Yeah. Coming out with SpongeBob as educational programming is a little stretch.
Bold. It's a bold choice.
TV makes you smarter. I think that's very wise. So I don't know. Yeah, chocolate can save your life, and TV makes you smarter. What a world. It's good.
Okay.
All right. I don't know. I think we can go there a little bit.
What? Why ham sucks?
Well, no. Well, we can get there. Let me mention this, and again, if you're a fan of Donald Trump, this show we talk about ridiculous, silly, goofy stuff going on in the world. And when you can mention Donald Trump, the president of the United States, in it, that's not a good sign for the president of the United States. You shouldn't be on this show. But each week he does crazy things that puts him on the show, which is not a good sign for the president of the United States. What's with this?
Get us put on the list.
Yeah. My wife brought this quote to me, and she was floored. And I'm sitting here like, he says this every holiday. What's this shtick he does where he's like, Merry Christmas, Happy Easter to everybody but the low-life Democrat scums that want to screw this country, blah, and everything else. And you look at the likes, and 1 billion people like it. 1 billion people share it with their friends on social media. I mean, could you imagine if you did that? If that was your shtick on Christmas? Like, You post on Facebook, Merry Christmas to everybody, but the scum-sucking lowlives. You mentioned names and everything else. I don't know. I don't understand where he gets off, but I don't know. Do you guys know anybody like that in your personal life that does that?
That's part of why he got elected.
Yes. It just amazing behavior that you wouldn't accept from anybody. He said that too. Let me throw something else here real quick, and we can talk about more fun stuff. I was kind of upset. I got a couple of kids with autism. RFK made some comments about autism. I got pretty frustrated. Am I right in being frustrated about this stuff?
Yes. I don't know what you're going to say, but yes.
Yeah.
I think it is a frustrating thing when somebody in a public position comes out and makes very public statements that obviously lean to a particular conclusion without presenting evidence.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. I don't agree with the stuff that he's saying, but I also don't need to.
Well,
it's one of those things that it's very close to the I don't want to dignify this with a response kind of a thing.
Right.
But that's not an issue that I have to deal with on a regular basis. So I totally understand your frustration.
Well, and we can talk hours every day about stuff that we shouldn't dignify for a response from this administration. But with having kids with autism, it kind of hit home for me. And I don't know. Let me just say this real quick, because these clips that we do get out there, and who knows who sees them. My frustrating thing is, first of all, why is he saying that? You know what I mean? What point is he trying to make when he says, hey, kids can't do this or kids can't do that or anything else? And I think his rationale, he's trying to say vaccines suck. And honestly, I'm much smart enough to tell you vaccines suck or not. In some ways, I care about helping my kids. I don't care about vaccines. But my bigger question to RFK Jr. is, so what's your end game? Okay, you're supposed to figure out why autism's around by September, but what does that mean once you figure it out? How do you help kids in need? You know what I mean? Just blaming on something just doesn't make sense. So I don't know. Thanks for letting me.
But that tends to be that is of more political benefit.
Oh yeah.
To have isolated a cause and not to offer solutions or help. There may not be solutions. It's not something that has to be solved per se, but at the same time that you're working so hard to assign blame to something.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time making a lot of other choices and cuts in programming that ultimately will make things harder.
Yeah.
For people to receive assistance. So
yeah, and when you figure out the cause of autism, and again, you know where he's going with it. I mean, that's his vibe and everything.
Yeah, it's not even really the cause of autism. It's the cause of a jump. He's planning to tie a jump in the numbers of cases of reported diagnosed autism, and he's going to try to connect it to vaccines. The person that he's hired, a doctor who's largely been discredited, who's been very publicly connecting those things, and you hire that person because he's going to come to that conclusion anyway.
Right.
It's not a unbiased study. Honestly, it's almost absurd that it would take until September.
Yeah, just say it now. say your crap.
Just say it now. You've already made your conclusion. Yeah. So what are we waiting for?
And if you
to have more forged numbers or incomplete numbers that justify this is why I don't want to talk about
it. And the other thing that frustrates me, and we've talked about mental health and some stuff we've gone through on this show and other shows, and I really think, a lot of us are on the spectrum of autism in some way. And again, there's some brilliant people that have autism. It's not anything to look down on. And it's just, I don't know, man. Sorry to bring this down there, but that's been something on my mind this week. you know, and you might say, well, I'm listening to your show. You don't sound like you're too positive about President Trump. Okay, no doubt. I mean, that's the case. I mean, I'll raise my hand to it, but it's not from a political base. You're messing with things I care about, and you're messing with things I love. And it's one thing if I'm like, I don't agree with your philosophy on, you know, tariffs or whatever. It's something that may not matter to me personally as much. But when you're talking about my kids and citing things that aren't even true about my kids, and my kids are have more severe cases of autism and everything, it's like, stop talking. You know what I mean? It just it gets really, really frustrating to say.
It seems disingenuous to be making those kinds of statements when the number one advisor to our government right now is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Who has been very public in his statements about having Asperger's syndrome. Which is on the spectrum. So why would you then turn around and say that it is impossible for people with autism to hold jobs and pay taxes? Well, Musk doesn't pay taxes, but he does hold a job, several of them. He pretends to do several of them. And yeah.
Well, I mean,
and is advising the government at this point. Like, what are you talking about? This is
right.
Look across the table from you, RFK.
Yeah, I mean, Green Day has some walking contradiction, and you know, you see that so much in the Trump. You know, I mean, you rip on poor Zelensky for not wearing a suit to the White House, where some schlub from El Salvador who brags about not being able to bring people that you wrongfully deported home, he wears the same thing, and you're like, oh, this guy's great, you know. And yeah, like you said about autism and everything, you know. Elon has, and I think Elon will admit to that, but you know, we ignore it because Elon gives me lots of money. And it's like, you know, and sorry, if you vote for the guy, you vote for the guy. I don't care. But you know, don't mock my family because of what you don't know about life. It's just something.
When you claim to be the health person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Look, let me say this quick before we get back to the funny. Or attempts to be funny. It's probably not really that funny. But yeah, that's the other thing too. If you are able to hire, okay, say you become president, you could hire anybody in the country to be the health department. And yeah, you might select somebody that you know that might have an influence on you, but you can hire anybody in the country. Can you imagine? Like, you should be able to pick somebody really, really smart and everything. But instead, you pick a guy that promises you votes because he switches from a Democratic Party. It's so sad. I mean, it's just a shame. It really is. And again, sorry for getting political on everybody, but this is my chance event. So here we go. All right. Well,
next thing you know, we'll have someone in charge of education who's talking about how it's important for kids to learn about A1.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be using A1 a lot in the future.
And
listen, this is somebody who's taken multiple choke slams. She's had the Stone Cold Stunner. I don't blame anybody for not being right after that.
Yes.
Multiple stunners.
And, you know, in my usually horrible transitions to next topics, let me try this here. You know, we're going to talk about Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and I'm not saying either one of those guys should be president, but at least they're consistent with what they feel. You know what I mean? They don't contradict themselves every other second. But I thought this was interesting. Red Lobster. You know, let's talk about food. Let's talk about stuff in our wheelhouse.
Wait. Give my brain a second to catch up. We were going Trump and Kennedy to Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg to Red Lobster.
Your transition to Red Lobster was Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
Well, I've got
it comes back to Snoop Dogg, but oh my gosh.
Well, let's be honest, okay? And it's not because we're not fans of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has entered in the, what do you call it? The universe of the Etc. show. Okay, where who's our buddy, the breakdancer from Ray Gunn? Okay, so Ray Gun goes crazy. Now she's on our radar. So we talked about Ray Gun. Punxsutawney Phil, he's on our radar. We make fun of him. Donald Trump's on the radar of those guys. I mean, that's where Donald Trump sits in our universe right now. And that's not a good place.
Be careful with we make fun of Punxsutawney Phil.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It's not an all-inclusive we.
Donald Trump and Punxsutawney
He's using
Phil.
the royal we.
Right. Well, they're on the same level. I mean, they're inconsistent.
No, don't no.
Trump probably doesn't.
Now you're going to get me fired up.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean,
something very personal to Paul.
Yeah, I think Paul's in your plate.
It's a close personal friend.
That's true.
What was it, Joe? 18%, right, on weather forecast?
No, it was more than that. It was over half, wasn't it?
No, they
like
say
60?
it was one of the lowest. They were
who nailed this year? No one's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it.
Did he nail this year?
Yes. It's 6 more weeks of weather.
Hey, it's 70 this week. It's kind of nice.
It's past the 6 weeks.
Accuracy rate is around 35 to 40%.
Wow.
He is right 1/3 of the time.
That's pretty good if he's a baseball player, right?
Yeah, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's like Todd Kopp. He's a Todd
He's batting 400. Yeah, he should be.
Yeah. All right, I take back everything I say. He's the
there
best.
you go.
So, all right. Well, here's why Red Lobster. Okay. Do you guys like the lobster? I've never eaten lobster before. Have you guys done it?
I've never had lobster.
I have had lobster.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. Do you like seafood?
All right. Yeah, I'm not a big seafood fan, so
you might not like it, but it's good.
Well, they're starting a cocktail, and it's got a sidecar of Snoop Dogg's favorite munchie, which appears to be Skittles. And they're doing this on the week of 420. So Red Lobster is not going to sell you cannabis or marijuana or something like that. But, they're nodding toward 420. Is this a bad move or is this good?
To offer you a thing of Skittles?
Right. But it's a nod toward 420 because, Snoop's into, the weed and all this other stuff.
I just keep bringing out the Cheddar Bay biscuits. You mean to tell me that a pothead, when they get the munchies, they'll differentiate Skittles or Cheddar Bay biscuits?
Apparently.
I don't think it has to be one or the other. I mean, this is what you get with
Skittles in the Cheddar Bay biscuits.
No. It is a orange, guava, and pineapple juice drink with gin.
Right.
And it had the glass has a little cup that hooks to the top of the glass, and it is Skittles.
Okay.
So pretty much they're buying half a pack of Skittles and putting that in the cup they can attach to your glass. Kind of smart by Red Lobster. They're getting publicity and how much they have to spend on that, And
the drinks are also $4.20.
Right. And how much does Skittles cost? What, 20 cents or,
No. They're like a candy bar. So whatever you pay for a candy bar.
Right. But it looks
$1.
like, no, I don't usually eat Skittles, but it looks like probably a third of a bag of Skittles in there. I mean, they're probably not dumping the whole candy bar of Skittles, right? I don't eat the Skittles, so I don't eat Red Lobster either, so I'm probably not going to go check that out.
Mm-hmm. But it's just a promotion for this time of year.
Maybe they should do. I'm not a pothead. I never want to try it, but maybe like a sidecar for all of us. Like a little snack we could snack on each day. I don't know. That might be interesting, right?
What's the best little add-on? If you go to Caribou Coffee and get a hot mocha, they'll put the little chocolate-covered coffee bean on top of the cup.
Okay.
That's the way to go.
Nice. What? Okay.
Oh, a chocolate covered coffee bean. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice little treat.
All right.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? Like it's coffee with chocolate in it. That's what a mocha is.
Yeah, but then you just get the little individual chocolate covered bean on sitting on top of the lid when they hand it to you.
Oh. Okay.
Little perk.
Huh. Caribou.
Let's move on to the next story. Joe found a good story. Louisiana. Why does this always happen down south? But there was 2 teachers in Louisiana. They've been placed on leave after altercation took place between them. Kind of reminds you of a movie, right?
Right? Like this needs to be. Isn't it a movie? I think it's. There was a movie with the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that movie was called. Fight Night or
I don't remember what it was called.
I'm looking it up.
All right, good. Well, 2 teachers got into a fight. So officials have a 35-year-old teacher was issued a summons for a misdemeanor simple battery. They do not mention the other teacher's name, but they got in a fight. This is in Baton Rouge. Around 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So this was, I guess this was last week. This was published on on Sunday. Yeah, they don't get into too many details, but this is a program that is a preschool readiness program, typically serving children between the ages of 3 and 5.
Nice.
Oof.
So you're talking pre-K teachers got into a fight.
Okay. You know what? I could justify this. I think I'm not that far out of bounds for justifying it. We all love our work, right? I mean, we're passionate about what we do. We care about it and everything else like that. When you're passionate and care about stuff, sometimes things happen, right? Look at hockey. There's hockey fights right now. I've interviewed some of these hockey fighters, enforcers. You think they're tough guys? No, they're really probably some of the nicer guys you ever want to meet. The hockey enforcers. And you're like, well, why are they fighting if they're so nice? Well, they know it's part of the job. They know that, the game gets intense. Sometimes you just got to drop the gloves and start fist fighting. Same thing with these teachers. I mean, look, they're helping shape the young minds of this world. They're intense.
They're going to shape
I think the difference
by
is
pounding them on the side, and we're going to shape
the teachers are on the same team. They're working together, not against. So that would be like 2 hockey players on the same team just going at it for no reason.
Are you saying that doesn't happen?
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think that's not happened before. The Charlie Day movie, by the way, is called Fist Fight.
Okay.
And he gets into arguments with Ice Cube, and they decide to have a fist fight after school.
Yeah, in that movie, Ice Cube's mad. You could probably say Ice Cube hates Charlie Day in that movie and everything. But, I kind of look at it as, hey, Ice Cube wants the best for the kids. And sometimes when you want the best for the kids, you got to fight each other to make it work. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Okay. And we get passionate. And let me take that back.
I mean, that's sound marriage advice too, by the way. That's good.
Just be
you have an angle on this one that I'm a little curious about, and I think does need to be considered here. The time period, the timing of this seems curious to me because we are at the end of April. And most schools, especially down here, we're going to be going through school till the end of May.
Okay.
This is absolutely a nightmare time period to be a teacher. This is the worst part of the year by far.
Yeah.
Kids are done. Teachers are done. Administrations are done. The money is gone. And you just have to survive until the end of the school year. Testing might be happening right now, which is very stressful. But then once testing is done, there's nothing to do. and we have federally mandated amount of days that we have to still be here, but there's not really anything else that we have left to do once testing is done. And there's at least a week, if not 2 weeks, of what are we even doing here that happens at the end of the year. Right now feels like an ideal time for me to get administrative leave from my job.
Okay.
It's not impossible.
Right.
2 teachers decided to have a fight so they could both go on leave.
Oh.
I feel like this is the time of year where there's a lot of people may just be over it. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to fight. We're going to get to go home.
Yeah. Well, you guys aren't huge hockey fans. Maybe I shouldn't use hockey as an example. What about baseball? Okay, say your team is losing 15-1 and you're a pitcher and you're out there in the 8th inning. You're like, heck with this. Why am I out there? So you peg a guy in the head. He comes out, he starts fighting you. The fight's over. Umpire's like, hey, you're both out of the game. Well, you get to leave early. You know what I mean? You're done with this. You're like, I need to be out early. So you just get in a fight and it works.
But that's assuming you don't get fired instead.
Okay. Well, stuff happens. You know what I mean? If it's worth getting fired, you just go for it and it's all good. So I think we scared Joe off with my endorsement.
He went to go fight somebody.
Yes. Yes. No, Joe, don't fight me. So I don't know.
He's like, I'm getting off this show 20 minutes early.
Yeah. He's like, I've lost. This isn't good. So, all right. What else we got? I see a story that Joe said about the Houdini. I need to wait for him on that. I'm not sure what he's referring to there. What else is going on, Paul? Anything you want to bring up as we're...
Ham sucks.
Ham sucks. Why does ham suck?
It does. We need to find a different feature main dish for Easter dinners because ham is just excessively overrated.
Too much salt, I've heard.
Yes.
That's not good.
And I don't know what happened to my life. I hit a point where just ham grosses me out now. I don't know what switch flipped in me, but ham's gross.
I shouldn't eat
I want something else.
Yeah, I shouldn't eat that much ham anymore. So that scared me off. I think turkey has always been a problem for me because it's always chewy. It's hard to eat. You kind of, it's like you're chewing on cud. Like, yeah, it's kind of tough. Are you a turkey guy?
I don't mind turkey. As long as it's made right. I advocate for a good Easter pizza.
If I had
Joe, who'd you go fight?
Yeah, really.
We had to fight. Let me tell you.
Okay.
I needed some medicine. I had to step away from
a little daddy's medicine. How about that?
Well,
Yeah.
If you mean
I'm on my ham sucks, right?
If you mean antacids, then yes, daddy's medicine. Yeah. So we're on to your Easter ham rant.
Yes.
Yeah, I have never been a ham fan. So there is not a holiday. There is no pig-related holiday where I need ham. I enjoy many other cuts of pig. Ham is not on my wish list. So I don't do the Easter ham or whatever other holidays people try to cram ham into there. Don't want it. We don't do much for Easter in terms of like big homemade meal. We don't really do that for Easter in our house, but
okay.
But we opt for turkey pretty much on all the other ones that are major. Everybody make a big meal. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, they're both turkey, not ham. And then Easter is like nothing. We actually, my whole family went to Five Guys for Easter this year.
Nice.
It's not bad. But I will say on the pizza front, One of my former colleagues is Canadian, and they celebrate their Thanksgiving in October sometime. And so it was always kind of not really weird to them because they knew they've lived in the States for a long time and understood why we had a Thanksgiving and did it the way that we did, but they were never on board with the let's get the big turkey and do the whatever. So it was just a normal day, but a day off for them. So we would have our turkey thing for lunch, and then they would invite people over to their place to do homemade pizzas. And so it was all homemade pizzas. They had all the crust all done up and, sauces and whatever else. And then you would put your own toppings on. So you could put whatever you wanted on. And, most of the time it was in the stove until we started figuring out how to get materials that would survive cooking pizzas on a grill. We had one cheap baking stone that did not survive. But we tried putting baking stones in there so that you could cook the pizza on that. But we had a real cheap one that did not make it.
You know what? With that, the homemade pizza thing, that this needs to be the new tradition. We need to start it right now for next year. Homemade pizzas should be the staple Easter dinner at everybody's house, because when you do the homemade dough, you can have the ritual every Easter of the dough is risen. The dough is risen indeed.
Right. I have a friend who has an Easter tradition of making what are called resurrection rolls. You all know resurrection rolls? You bake a roll with a marshmallow inside. And then you bake them. And then the marshmallow melts. So when you open up, you get that the roll, you go to eat it, and there's nothing. You crack it open, and there's nothing inside. The marshmallow is risen. Then you have a roll that has the sweetness of the melted marshmallow in the inside.
Speaking of risen, let me share this video. I was telling you about these weird kind of like AI videos of heaven.
Oh, now you're going to show them to us?
Yeah, I found one. Let me present this.
So while we were talking, you were searching the internet?
No, it just popped up. I was looking at Facebook, a message I sent you guys, and check this out. I need your opinion about this. Hang on a second.
Así es la casa de Dios, un lugar resplandeciente, bañado en luz, donde el blanco puro cubre cada rincón. Majestuosas columnas de cristal se elevan entre jardines eternos, donde ríos de agua viva fluyen con serenidad. Ángeles de alas doradas rodean el trono, cantando con voces celestiales. La brisa es suave, perfumada con el aroma de flores inmortales. Aquí no hay dolor, solo paz infinita. La casa de Dios es un paraíso eterno, donde el amor y la gloria brillan sin fin.
You watch a lot of Facebook Reels in Spanish?
Yeah, I apparently do. No, I saw one.
All I heard of that was something suave, like,
oh, okay.
Jesus suave.
Yeah, it was rico suave. No, I understood most of what they were saying. Obviously, with the pictures as reinforcement, it was a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, they were just describing heaven.
Yeah, well, there's some weird ones. I haven't found the other ones yet, but if I find, I'll have to prepare a big.
So that's just a bunch of AI generated images.
Maybe it's real video. I don't know. Maybe someone got a chance of taking video of heaven and sharing it.
Yeah, it's probably very, very real.
Very real. Paul, your take on that? Any real heaven videos out there that people are sending back?
No. I distrust 99% of the books of I went to heaven and this is what I saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I had a real serious procedure with my heart scare I had like a year ago. What's the movie of the boy who went to heaven, or say he went to heaven? Heaven's for real, or
yeah.
I watched that. That was a little sad. I don't know. Probably not true, but not the movie you watch before a health scare. So pretty good.
Because and I guess the reason I mistrust them is because they always they'll describe Jesus and someone will paint what they're doing. It's always this pasty white dude with feathery hair. Like,
Yeah.
no.
This lead singer from an 80s band without the makeup on.
Scott Stapp. What does he look like?
Yeah, when you're describing Scott Stapp, we gotta ask some more questions.
I'll tell you. You talk about Scott. I can't even say his name now. Scott Stapp. Say that 10 times.
And this is why we don't let you say that baseball
Yes.
player's name.
You guys send me that message. Be careful while you say Scott Stapp, or we're going to get ourselves canceled or something. Apparently he's touring again, and apparently Creed is popular. I'm surprised.
They had some good albums.
Yeah, I used to like Creed. Creed was a good thing. So I don't know. Oh, I got to talk to. I don't know if you guys were ever into Bride.
Oh yeah.
I actually talked to. It's up on my YouTube. Dale Thompson the other day, a lead singer of Bride. They're coming back to the Columbus area in a couple of weeks. So I got a chance to talk to him about his band, what they're doing. He actually moved to New Zealand. He was telling me he got married. He left the country for 11 years and he moved back to Kentucky last year. He's trying to do a band. Kind of critical about the state of Christian music. Apparently, he had an album in the 90s that sold like a lot. And the Christian label pretty much dropped him because they didn't know what to do with it. But just think, it was like 1993. It was Star Song, which is kind of like a pop label. I don't know if you remember them. And they had, Bride was kind of like a hard rock, heavy metal. And you didn't hear that much in Christian music at the time. Star Song didn't have anything like that. They dropped them, and they've been kind of trying to find their way since then. Kind of weird. So check that podcast out. It was neat talking to him. I like him. Nice guy. Wish him the best. I think the hard thing, for some reason, Christian music right now is really popular in South America. Like he was telling me, he was touring South America with Petra. We've talked to John Schlitt before and Striper, but apparently, you can't get tours for old Christian rock up in America now. It's all South America. Kind of weird. All right. You guys want to talk about WrestleMania for a minute? I'm not a big WrestleMania guy, but you guys want to give your take on it real quick?
For me, Joe's more the expert, but for me, usually I feel like WrestleMania is kind of like the culmination of the entire year of storytelling, where this build-up kind of felt a little half-hearted for most of the matches, and some of the matches weren't that great. Probably in the past couple of years, I've been back into wrestling. Probably the most underwhelming Mania, but that was just me.
Yeah, the build-up was definitely a strange one, and they did some disservice to some of the things that they have typically done before. So they make a big deal about how the winners of the men's and women's Royal Rumble, which usually happens in January, are wrestling for an opportunity at a WrestleMania main event. And they make a big deal about how they're going to get the main event and that they will have a title shot. They choose the person that they're going to wrestle for their belt, and that's going to be the final match. Neither of the people who won that got a title shot that was the end of the show. The weirder part of that was one of the people was the wrestler named Jey Uso. He used to be part of the Uso Brothers tag team, part of the Bloodline. He's a cousin of Roman Reigns and The Rock and all of those people. And his moniker, the little phrase that they call him as a nickname, is he is Main Event Jey Uso. Right? Yeah. And he won an opportunity at a main event. When do you think his match happened? Hint. On 2 nights of WrestleMania, neither night last match was main event Jey Uso for a title. It was the first match of the first night, and the balloons were not a part of it. The first match of the first night was main event Jey Uso getting a title shot. He won the title, and it's so great that he won the title. It's, you know, a feel-good type story. It was a rough build-up, but yeah. But why? You do a disservice to all of the buildup that you have as a company when you make these stipulations and then you totally ignore them when it comes time to do the show.
Or you just grab the contract and sign your name to it.
Sign your name to it. Well, it doesn't matter. Actually, the first match is showing they have a lot of trust in him, because if you're starting off the night, that's a big deal. The feature of the whole show was John Cena having an opportunity to win his 17th world title, which would break the record of Ric Flair, who held titles 16 times in his career. And John Cena had 16, and he has announced his retirement at the end of this calendar year, and he had won the shot to wrestle for the title, and he beat Cody Rhodes and has achieved his 17th world title. He has achieved it as a heel for the first time in a long time in his career. He turned heel during this run, so he is very much berating all the audiences for not being supportive of him enough in all of this. He no longer wears the bright colors. He comes out all black, and he doesn't have the big screens. They'll play the song, but it's all black screen with just white lettering saying John Cena. Wow. It's much less fanfare, but he's being a bad guy. And he has said he has the undisputed WWE Championship is what it's called. And he said that he is the greatest champion to hold it, and if nobody takes it off of him by the end of the year, he's going to take it home with him, and he will retire that title, and he will be the last undisputed WWE champion. So we'll see if that plays out.
Won it with the help of Travis Scott, who I think is still walking down that ramp to the ring.
I don't understand. Travis Scott, who wrote the theme song that they used all over WrestleMania, which is just weird. Got involved in the match, and you're like, I don't even know who you are, man. Why are you a part of this right now?
Is he a hip hop guy? I don't know who Travis Scott is. Hip hop guy.
Yeah,
okay.
Hip hop guy.
And he came out before, but he came out with The Rock, and so when he comes out, we're like, okay, here comes The Rock, and then it was just Travis Scott spending 45 minutes walking to the ring.
Well, it's a huge ramp.
I think we need more slow.
Yeah, but he was going really slow.
He had to take his time. Yeah.
We need more celebrities in wrestling. Like John Cena is now a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Scott. Yeah, we need some more celebrities.
They don't have time. They're on the road like 50 weeks a year. They are busy. They can't do other things very often.
They come in and get a script, play their role. It could be a quick thing.
Some people do.
Usually you will get a sprinkle of, there'll be people popping up, or maybe a NFL player from that the town where the matches are might jump in and do something. But
typically there's somebody famous who will at least be in the audience, and they'll cut away to this famous person, or it's a person that they think people are going to be interested in. At the very least, there's somebody who's there watching, and they'll do cutaways from that town. Sometimes it's sports players, sometimes it's other celebrities, somebody famous from that town. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
There was a couple of really off matches where you're just like, I don't even know why I'm watching this right now. But most things were pretty decent. And like Paul was saying before earlier in this podcast, the continuation of the peak that is WrestleMania is the Raw after WrestleMania, which is the next day. Mm-hmm. So there are some times where at the show, something that might be a bit confusing or unexpected or whatever else happens, and it's the next night before somebody has a chance to come out and talk about what happened and explain what happened and why they chose to turn heel on somebody or why such and such happened. But the other big deal match that was happening, the actual main event, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, and one of the big storyline things going into that was the manager, Paul Heyman, who has been with Roman Reigns for like 4 or 5 years now, had previously been the manager for CM Punk. And so CM Punk finagled this situation where Paul Heyman was going to be in his corner and not Roman Reigns to try to throw him off his game. And by all the time all was said and done, Paul Heyman had turned against both of those guys and is now the manager for Seth Rollins, the third guy in the match, who then also won. So now we have to figure out what are we going to do now with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins.
And all of the matches were eclipsed on Monday night when Stephanie Vicaire and Io Sky I spent those 15 minutes with my jaw on the floor. That was nuts.
They were doing some crazy stuff. Yeah,
they were.
I would say that was a better, especially for the women, definitely a better match than we had seen at either night of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I would love to make fun of you guys for that, but I feel I'm the same because Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show about a week ago, and I'm like turning up the TV going, oh, what's he going to say about the Steelers? And it turns out he said next to nothing. So, I don't know. I'm falling.
Yeah, your guy got nearly his head popped off on Monday night.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't know.
I legitimately got worried because he was turning purple.
Yeah, it was strange.
Yeah. But that's going to be their way of letting Pat have a couple weeks off.
Yeah. Well, he's got to talk about the draft.
Yeah, he's got to go do the draft. But yeah, somebody put him in a chokehold, and he went out. He was out. He was red for.
Well, you know, there's going to be a fight now between him and Gunther. I mean, they're setting that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sometime.
They legitimately could. He's had a match before. He can do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, my brother's a big Gunther fan. I'm like, oh, your guy beat up a retired kicker.
Well, I mean, at least the retired kicker did step in when he was going to take out Michael Cole, who's what, pushing 60? No, he's not really that old, but
yeah,
seems like it.
It's so strange. All right, well, let's wrap this up. I saw something on Twitter again. No Steelers talk tonight. We're taking this Wednesday. Even if I posted this the second it was over, we got less than 24 hours of that being relevant. But next week we'll come back. We know Steelers have a pretty big draft. We'll break that down and make fun of the Browns, whatever they do or don't do. So for Paul and Joe, this is Chris. Thanks for checking us out. Have a great night, everybody.